So, a couple of weeks ago, CG Geek released a video where he recreated a Bob Ross painting in Blender. I watched it and I thought it was really cool and I wanted to try and do something similar. The only thing is, I don't really know how to use Blender, I haven't got much experience with it. But, the last couple of months, I've been learning how to use Unity, so I thought I'd give it a go at recreating a Bob Ross painting in the Unity game engine. And just to spice things up a bit, I thought I'd try and do it in 20 minutes. Spoiler warning, I didn't manage to do it. Anyway, I did consider just trying again and not actually uploading the first attempt that I kind of did and failed. But I thought really it'd be a better way to actually show you what I did, what I kind of thought I got wrong, and then how I improved on that later on. So, without further ado, let's get on with it. Let's have a look at how it got started. Okay, so first things first, I've got Unity open, I've imported a load of assets to help me along the way, I've got my Bob Ross paint in there, I've got my timer ready, so I started the timer. Now I fast forwarded this quite a bit just so we can get through it quite quickly, so we're not going to be sat here for 20 whole minutes. So I opened up a terrain layer and looked at the Bob Ross paint again, and my plan was to start painting out just the features, just sort of the shape of the scene, so we can get the mountains in the background, the stuff in the foreground, you know, just start building it up and then work from there. So you can see I've got my my terrain brush there. I'm just sort of painting out the little areas where I think, right, those islands need to go. Now I wanted to do this video to try and challenge myself. I thought it'd be really interesting after watching CG Geek's video to try and do something similar myself in a game engine. And my idea behind the video was that you don't need years and years of experience, at least not like you used to have to need, to be able to start making good looking games. You know, I've only been learning for a few months myself. I started maybe 4 months ago. I just sort of wanted to show people who are maybe thinking about starting to learn game design or learning Unity or anything like that it's actually quite accessible now. You don't need a degree in it or anything like that. You can just sort of take it and go, and there's so much help out there. There's so many YouTube tutorials, there's so many assets that you can use to just, you know, get you started, to help you start building. So you can see here that I've basically started adding some of my terrain textures and layers. I've started painting it out just to make sure I've not got all that grassy texture, and now I'm starting to add some trees in as well. As he says, every tree should have a friend. So make sure all those trees are clumped together, nice looking, and we've got LODs attached to those trees, which means when they're in the distance, they're not going to take ages to render. It's not rendering the full model. It's going to render like a low poly version. So we can afford to chuck loads of those things down there. This is the beautiful thing about Unity's terrain tool, is it just sort of does everything for you. You can just start placing trees down and it just does it all for you. Now, I'll mention here, I'm actually using assets that I bought from the asset store as well. There's loads of really, really cool assets that you can go and grab from the asset store. A lot of them are free. You don't necessarily have to buy them if you don't have the spare money. Although, saying that, the ones that you do buy, they are phenomenally worth it. They're really, really cool. So I'll leave a link in the description for all the assets that I've used for this. And there's no shame in using assets in your game, especially when you're new. Assets are a really good way to learn just how everything works in the engine that you're using, whether you're using Unity or if you're using a different engine. But they also save you a lot of time. It's the sort of thing of, why would you bother modeling a tree that somebody else has modeled 1,000 times and it looks just as good, if not better, than the tree you would be able to model? All you need to do is take that model and repurpose it. Anyway, now you can see that I'm looking at my timer and I'm running out of time. I'm realising that I've got nowhere near enough done that I wanted to get done, and well, yeah, there it goes. And that's it, the timer's done. Needless to say, I wasn't particularly happy with where I'd got to in the 20 minutes time zone, but that's alright. I mean, I could have gone back and tried to do it again, but I thought, you know what, I'd leave it for the night. I ended up finishing recording this thing at like 1 o'clock in the morning, so I went to bed. I thought I'll try it again the next day. So the next day, I opened Unity back up, I went back into the project, and I just started tinkering around again, improving on the things which I thought, right, I didn't get this right in the 20 minutes I had, and I didn't put a time restriction on myself this time. Because really, that's what we're all about here. It's not about getting everything right first time. It's about improving and sort of seeing what you did wrong before and looking at it and thinking, right, how can I do that better? And really, at its heart, that's what any kind of creative endeavor is all about. It's about looking at what you've done and saying, yeah, it's not perfect, but that's okay. That's not a bad thing. You can improve on it next time. And it's the only way that anybody gets better. Is like, nobody creates a masterpiece the first time round. You know, Michelangelo wouldn't have painted the Sistine Chapel his first time. Picasso wasn't a master when he started out. It takes time to learn all these things. It takes time to be able to be good at your craft, and it's what learning's about. You just learn by doing it. So you can see here, I'm just sort of I'm going through, and I'm just sort of retouching up all of the shape of the terrain, trying to make it look more like the original Bob Ross painting that we see at the beginning there. So what I was doing here I was going over with my height adjustment brush on the terrain. I was just sort of blocking out the height of areas and then smoothing it out with the terrain brush, you know, just sort of getting the levels right, and then going back over it again and making sure that it all looks smooth and more natural, because you don't see as many sort of jagged edges on grass hill faces, not like you see on mountains or anything. So I'm just sort of correcting some of the islands in the background there as well, because I mean the islands were the complete wrong shape, and then I'm redoing those mountains as well, because really they didn't give enough depth, you know, they didn't give that sense of scale or parallax, because you got to think as well, it's like we're building this in a game, so the second you move you're going to actually see that those mountains are actually really close, and then in perspective look quite small, whereas in the painting they've got that parallax, they look far away, they're kind of surrounded in fog, so we want to kind of emulate that look. The next thing, we go back into the foreground, we bring those trees back in again, we start painting those details out a little bit more, because before in that 20 minutes we just chucked a load of grass down there and it looked rubbish. So we're kind of going over a bit more with grass and rocks and throwing some twigs in there, just trying to make it look a little bit nicer. Now, by no means am I saying this is perfect, like the end product, even after I tried doing it again. But again, it's all about improving on what you've done before, and I'm quite looking forward to actually going back, maybe in a year's time, after I've learned more how to use the terrain tools and how to use Unity in general, and seeing if I could actually improve on what I've done here and how I would do that. And then I've gone in and I've changed the skybox just to make it again a bit more of a vibrant colour, get those reflections really shining off the water. And then last thing, we're just going to add some post-processing on there, and at that point I said, you know what, I'm done. I think I'm good here. I didn't want to spend much more down it because I've got limited time. I've got 2 children, a partner and a full-time job. And that's it, that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please leave a comment, let me know what you think. If you want to see me do something similar in the future, please let me know what you want me to do, what sort of 20-minute challenge you'd like to see, and please subscribe. I'll see you later.